In women's lacrosse, the ball carrier has a lot of advantages over her defender, so the defense will often send an extra player to the ball carrier to stop her when she dodges. Depending on the type of defensive scheme you are playing against, this first slide could trigger other slides within the defense. For you, as an off-ball player, these defensive slides will create lots of opportunities to cut to the goal. This is one of the easiest cuts to make in lacrosse because the space that you need to cut into is created by your defender when she slides to the ball. You obviously need to react to your defender's slide by cutting to the net as soon as she goes, but really you should be anticipating her slide and reading the situation a little earlier when the ball carrier begins her dodge. So let's take a look at some examples of cutting when your defender slides. Here's a pretty simple example of cutting behind a slide. Let's look at it again in slow motion. Here's the ball carrier coming down, and she's about to draw a slide onto her from the adjacent defender. As soon as the slider goes, notice how quickly the cutter has her stick up ready for a pass. The most common opportunity to cut off a slide happens when you are the off-ball player adjacent to the ball carrier. The reason is simple. If the ball carrier dodges toward you, your defender will be the first defensive slide, and this usually creates the first cutting opportunity. As an off-ball player, if the ball carrier is next to you, you should be ready to cut and, as we'll see, maybe even try to manipulate your defender before she slides. In this clip, here is the ball carrier who will start a dodge, here is the adjacent defender, and here is the cutter. Notice how the cutter gets close to the 8-meter boundary to set up her cut. Here's another example of an adjacent slide leading to a cut. Here's the slide, and notice how quickly the cutter has her stick up looking for a pass as she moves into space. And here's another example of a cut off an adjacent slide. Notice how the off-ball player backs up. This puts her defender and the ball carrier both in her field of view. She can see the moment the defender slides. In this clip, the attacker here sees her defender getting ready to slide to the ball carrier. As the defender slides, the cutter times her move to be open when the ball carrier rolls back to the middle. Watching it again in slow motion, you'll see how well timed this cut really was. Here's the defender's slide. The ball carrier stretches out the double team, rolls back, and here's the cutter. He's got a 50% shooting. Here, watch the cutter at the top of the 8-meter arc. Notice how the cutter backs up a step or two to lengthen the defender's slide to the ball. A quick pass. Adjacent cuts can happen in really fluid situations. In this next clip, number 12 in white cuts upfield to receive a pass, while number 43 in the middle sees her defender slide over.
Hall, met by pressure. Levy, good look in front and cockerel.
Let's watch it again in slow motion. Notice how quickly number 43 reacts as soon as her defender slides to the ball. She does a nice job of cutting to the net with her stick to the inside, catches the pass, and shoots right away. Adjacent slides can happen at any point in the offensive possession. In this case, the offense is still subbing on players. The defense overplays the ball carrier and sets up a sliding situation that it's not ready to handle. Sometimes the adjacent slide comes from across the crease. Here, the ball carrier dodges from behind the net, and this draws a slide from the other side of the crease. In this clip, the player on the wing dodges toward the net. The defender in front of the crease hedges like she's going to slide, and this creates space for a cutter behind the net to come in.
Possession clock to 10 for Maryland. Top shelf for Katie May.
Here's another example of a dodger coming from behind the net and drawing an adjacent slide. The cutter does a great job of anticipating the slide and reacting quickly as soon as the slide goes. Let's watch it again in slow motion. So far, we've looked at cutting behind an adjacent slide, but sometimes the defense makes a quick second slide to cover the adjacent attacker before she can cut off the first slide. This leaves the attacker who is 2 players away from the ball in a good position to cut to the net. In this clip, watch the attacker who is 2 positions away from the ball carrier as she makes a cut to the net. Let's look at this again in slow motion. As the ball carrier moves toward the net, the adjacent defender appears like she's going to double team her. This triggers the second slide onto the adjacent attacker. As the second slide goes, her attacker cuts to the net. Occasionally, the defense will slide from the backside of the play, or basically the opposite side of the field from where the dodge is taking place. This usually happens in unsettled situations because most defensive schemes don't try to slide to the ball from the backside on purpose. However, when a defender does slide from the backside, it frees up an attacker on the backside to cut to the middle. This clip begins with a ground ball situation and a defender who overplays the ball carrier. Watch the attacker on the backside as she cuts behind her defender's slide. Let's look at this again. As the dodger heads toward the net, she attracts 3 slides. This leaves one of the backside defenders covering 2 attackers. As the dodger manipulates the defenders with pump fakes, the backside opens up for the cutter. Fast break situations involve lots of slides for the defense and lots of cutting opportunities for the offense. In this clip, North Carolina in white is on a fast break with a slight numbers advantage. Looking at it again, this defender first slides to the ball. The ball carrier could make a pass to her left to this player, who could draw the defender and then make another pass to this player down low. Instead, she carries the ball to the right. What this does is isolate the backside defender against 2 offensive players. It also means that these 3 defenders are focused on the new ball carrier, which opens up space for this player to cut to the middle. In this part, we looked at the cutting game when you are adjacent to the ball carrier. Your defender has a big role in team defense and sliding to the ball when the ball is right next to her. This means you have to know what you're going to do before your defender slides to the ball. So look into the middle constantly, understand the potential space that will be there when your defender slides, and maybe even figure out the cutting angle you're going to use when your defender goes to the ball. In the next section, we're going to look at cutting when you see the back of your defender's head as she turns to look at the ball carrier. In the meantime, thanks for watching.